You know the universe is broken when the only thing keeping peace between 82 alien species is a species that thinks sarcasm is a weapon and diplomacy is just war in a necktie. Humans didn't declare war. We just walked out. And the galaxy? Oh, the galaxy panicked like toddlers at a thunderstorm. And the man who started it all? Commander Arlen Vex. The smiling strategist. The knife in a suit. The man who weaponized etiquette and made silence louder than orbital strikes. The grand forum of the Galactic Council shimmered with diplomatic tension. 82 species, hive minds, gas forms, telepathic fungi, packed the dome chamber like predators sizing each other up in a zoo made of laws. Holograms flickered. Translations glitched. Arguments fermented like spoiled milk behind ceremonial politeness. At the heart of it all sat Commander Arlen Vex, Earth's chief diplomatic strategist. Tall, calm, dangerous. His tailored uniform was dark enough to swallow light, and he wore it like a second skin. A gold pin gleamed on his lapel, the Terran sigil of peace, a cracked olive branch crossed by a sword. Councillor Threk of the Broxy Dominion leaned forward, his segmented arms twitching. "Let me speak plainly," Threk said, his voice filtered through a translator node. "The human delegation continues to behave as if it holds leverage. But your peacekeeping antics, your emotional performance art, have outlived their usefulness." Silence rippled across the room. Vex didn't move. He blinked once. "You calling us dramatic?" he asked softly. Threk chittered smug. "Merely observant. The Broxy do not fear displays. We fear outcomes." Vex's smile was slight but real. The kind that didn't reach the eyes. He stood slowly, his movements surgical. Calm swept the chamber like static. "You're not wrong," Vex said. "We have been performing." He reached into his coat, pulled out a black data tablet, and slid it onto the center podium. The device lit up. Red letters burned across the display. "Operation Burn the Table." The chamber's translation AI hiccuped. "You think we've been playing peace?" Vex's tone sharpened. "This was rehearsal. Dress rehearsal. Curtains down now." Counselor Isa of the Veilrax hissed. "Is this a threat?" Vex looked her way. "Not at all. It's a retreat. Effective immediately, the Terran Coalition is exiting all diplomatic roles and responsibilities across Council space." Murmurs exploded. The chamber fractured into uproar. Dozens of species shouted simultaneously, but Vex didn't raise his voice. He pressed a button on his wristband. Across the galaxy, every human ambassador, translator, mediator, and observer vanished from their posts within hours. Terran embassies sealed. Communication nodes shut down. Human ships warped out of alien capitals without notice. No explanations. No farewells. No apologies. Counselor Drav of the Zenth Collective slammed his clawed hand on the podium. "This is madness. Humans are the only neutral species holding this alliance together." "Then maybe," Beck said, turning toward the exit, "you should have treated us better." A wave of outrage crashed through the council. Threats flew. Accusations, demands? Some called it blackmail. Others cowardice. Vex paused at the threshold. "You all thought humans were here to help. That we were the glue. We weren't." He faced them once more. "We were the pressure valve. The one keeping this cracked pot from boiling over. You didn't listen when we said diplomacy was exhausting. You mocked us when we begged for reform. You scoffed when we called your treaties powder kegs wrapped in ribbon. Well," he smiled, wide this time. A battlefield smile. "Let's see what happens without us." And with that, he walked out. Within 2 hours, the Veilrax accused Ilkera of aggression due to a mistranslated trade clause. By hour 4, one of the Quarren Court lords sent what he thought was a peace offering, a box of severed fingers, to the wrong planetary monarchy. A diplomatic ship belonging to the Draxian Confederacy misinterpreted a ceremonial light display as an act of war and opened fire on a moon. Meanwhile, a single Terran communication pulse echoed through deep space. A file titled, "Good luck with your next mistake." circulated across 1,000 government networks. It contained nothing but a silent video of Vex adjusting his cufflinks, standing beside a holographic banner that read, "You built this circus. We just walked out of the tent." On Earth, chaos didn't erupt. It didn't need to. The exit was calculated, measured, prepared for. Aides approached Vex in the Terran's strategic dome. "They're panicking," one said, breathless. "Council fleets are scrambling. Eurith declared emergency neutrality. Draxians mobilized a second fleet toward the Jinn corridor. Everyone's screaming for mediation." Vex nodded slowly. "And we're still not picking up calls?" "Not a single one. Just automated bounce backs." He exhaled. "Good. Let them boil." The aide hesitated. "Sir, with respect, why now?" Vex looked at the galaxy map on the table. Red dots bloomed across its surface like a rash. "Because it wasn't peace. It was hostage mediation in slow motion. They didn't want diplomacy. They wanted someone to blame when it failed." The aide lowered her voice. "You really think they'll tear themselves apart?" Vex didn't answer immediately. "They already are." The Council, in desperation, sent messages. Pleas. Demands. Ultimatums. Some begged Earth to reconsider. Others threatened military action if Terran diplomats weren't reinstated. Every message received the same reply. A GIF of Arlen Vex clinking a glass, captioned, "Not our circus. Not our species." Back at the Council, confusion turned to fear. Without humans smoothing over ancient grudges, decades-old resentment surged to the surface. Old wars flared again. Treaties cracked under linguistic strain. Even the universal translators struggled to decode sarcasm-fueled threats without human nuance to guide context. Counselor Threk held a closed session among High Command representatives. "This is deliberate," he growled. "The humans are destabilizing us as revenge." Counselor Isis shook her head. "No. This is what we are without them. That's what terrifies me." On the edge of galactic space, Vex stood before a window of black stars. Below, the moon bristled with Terran ships, idle but watching. Not attacking. Not retreating further. He activated his private comms. A single message prepared for future broadcast. Voice calm. Measured. "We didn't start a war. We just stopped pretending it wasn't coming." He smiled one last time. Not because he enjoyed the collapse. Because he warned them. Repeatedly. And they laughed. Now, nobody was laughing. The first warning signs arrived in the form of translation breakdowns. The Iraq Hive sent a formal apology to the Lkera dynasty, but the message, lacking a human interpreter, translated as, "We will devour your shame." The Lkera took it literally and responded with a missile barrage that wiped out 3 minor trade outposts. Within hours, 14 sectors entered a state of alert. The Veilrax declared the Zenth Collective's economic proposal as a declaration of emotional dominance. The Zenth retaliated by releasing toxic pollen storms into shared airspace. At the Galactic Forum, chaos spread like infection. Emergency meetings were held. Delegates screamed at their translators, but the AI couldn't handle sarcasm, nuance, or veiled threats wrapped in cultural metaphor. Without human intermediaries, every word became a potential insult, every phrase a weapon. In the Broxy Dominion, a civilian protest turned into a civil war when footage surfaced of a Broxy official insulting Terran coffee culture in what was meant to be a joke. The video, mistranslated and broadcast as a formal declaration of cultural superiority, ignited a continent-wide riot. On a fringe mining moon, a Draxian noble offered peace to a rival clan by sending a ceremonial fruit, standard gesture among humans. Unfortunately, the fruit symbolized war in the local dialect. A plasma skirmish broke out before either side realized the mistake. Back on Earth, Vex stood in the Terran Command Nexus, watching the cascade of diplomatic collapse play out across a dozen screens. His arms remained crossed, face unreadable. "They're unraveling," his aide said, scrolling through real-time feeds. 24 conflict zones, half of them direct council members. They've started blaming each other for human withdrawal. Vex nodded once. Expected. Another aide approached. They've formally requested Terran re-entry. A unanimous emergency vote. 79 signatures. Vex didn't move. Tell them it's under review. Then send the same message to all channels. The aide hesitated. Sir, which one? Vex's eyes didn't leave the screen. The toast. A minute later, every council leadership terminal received the same broadcast. Arlen Vex, seated at a dinner table, raising a glass. To peace, he said calmly. You never built it. You borrowed it. The message cut to black. Inside the council, the mood turned desperate. Accusations turned into threats. Councillor Isa screamed at a Draxian ambassador, demanding the return of human translators. The ambassador shouted back, claiming the Veilraks were secretly harboring Terran tech. Councillor Threx slammed the table with a claw. They're behind this. Humans are doing this from the shadows. Isa snapped. Or maybe they were the only ones holding this mess together. That idea sat heavy in the room. Across 3 quadrants, minor species began defecting from the council altogether. The Tren Confederacy pulled its ambassadors and declared neutrality. The Jin Compact began hiring human mercenary units, unaffiliated with the coalition, but unmistakably effective. Galactic trade halted in sectors previously stabilized by human negotiators. Pirate syndicates moved into disputed zones, emboldened by the sudden power vacuum. In a single solar cycle, 6 new wars began. In private, council intelligence heads gathered. This isn't retaliation, one said. This is entropy. We didn't realize how much they were managing until they stopped. Another leaned forward. They have to come back. Offer reparations. Power sharing. Anything. Councillor Drav growled. They don't want power. They wanted respect. We gave them sarcasm and subtext. Now we're choking on our own words. Elsewhere, Vex prepared the next phase. He stood before a console-marked glass silence. His voice was low, measured. They thought peace was a system. It was a service. One they didn't pay for. He tapped the console. The signal went live. In orbit over dozens of major council worlds, dormant Terran satellites activated. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They simply projected a message in every known language. This zone is no longer under diplomatic protection. No threats. No context. Just silence. But the implications were immediate. Without Terran diplomatic oversight, treaties became suggestions. Alliances unraveled. Disputes long buried began resurfacing, some ancient enough to be myth. On a council broadcast network, a political analyst broke down mid-sentence, laughing hysterically. They didn't fire a shot, he gasped. They just left. And now we're the ones pulling the trigger on ourselves. On Vex's screen, sectors lit up in red. Not from Terran action, but from species turning on each other. As he watched, a Quarren war barge fired on a civilian ship. The justification? Suspicion of collaboration with humans. The irony wasn't lost on him. His comms pinged. A secure message from a minor species leader, one of the few who had worked directly with Earth. Please! What do we do? Vex typed back. Prepare for silence. Listen to what fills it. The aide returned, breathless. Proxy fleets are mobilizing toward Terran border systems. They're calling it a containment operation. Vex didn't blink. Let them come. They'll expect resistance. He turned, voice calm. They'll get confusion. And that terrifies them more. In council chambers, panic turned to paranoia. Rumors spread of human sabotage, psychological warfare, backdoor fail-safes. Every system failure, every miscommunication became a sign of human interference, even when it wasn't. Threx snarled. They've rigged the system to collapse without them. Isa shook her head. No. They just stopped fixing it. As the cycle ended, the council chamber was quiet. Not from peace, but from exhaustion. Every emergency channel played the same unanswered message. Terran coalition unavailable. Please try again later. One counselor whispered. We pushed the only species that cared into walking away. And now, they're not even watching. He was wrong. From orbit, Terran satellites recorded everything. And Commander Vex watched in silence, not with satisfaction, but with certainty. The universe was about to learn the cost of underestimating the species that smiled while building peace, and never flinched when choosing to end it. The message went out across 43 star systems at once. No encryption, no header, just a feed that hijacked every device capable of sight or sound. The screen flickered, and there he was. Commander Arlen Vex sat in a leather chair, one arm draped casually over the backrest, the other holding a crystal glass filled with something amber and expensive. Behind him crackled a quiet fireplace, though no one could say which planet he was on. Hello again, he said, smiling faintly. I'd ask how things are going, but I read the casualty reports. The silence was suffocating. Millions watched, from soldiers in trenches to high-ranking council leaders in war rooms. No background music, no fanfare, just Vex and his voice. You know, some of you thought we were bluffing. That humanity stormed off in a fit of emotion. That we'd come crawling back the moment someone fired a shot. I'm flattered you think we're that sentimental. He sipped his drink. Somewhere, a Broxy fleet commander threw a datapad at the wall. On another world, a Veilrax general demanded the feed be cut. It couldn't. We didn't leave because we lost interest. We left because you made it clear you never listened. You wanted peace, but only on your terms. You wanted unity without compromise. You wanted humans to carry your grudges like translators carry weight. He set the glass down, leaned forward. So we gave you what you wanted. A galaxy without human interference. And you burned it in a week. Across dozens of battlefields, the message played on loop. Artillery paused. Fighters hovered mid-air. Commanders hesitated with orders on their lips. The war hadn't stopped, but for the first time, everyone remembered why it had started. We didn't hack your systems. We didn't plant saboteurs. We didn't weaponize your instability. We just stopped holding your hand. And you found out your treaties were napkins, your alliances were jokes, and your translators were the last thing standing between war and confusion. He reached over, tapped a device. Behind him, a new image replaced the fireplace, a tactical map filled with red zones, blinking lights, indicators of active conflict. It wasn't just messy. It was falling apart. This is what happens when you treat diplomacy like a favor instead of a foundation. The feed cut briefly, only to be replaced by footage never meant for the public, council meetings recorded in secret. Threx sneering as he called Terrans useful idiots. A Veilrax delegate joking that Earth was a primitive species taught to sit still and smile. Alcara noble mocking Terran customs, mimicking handshakes with slimy appendages. All the ugly things said behind closed doors, now broadcast in full clarity. You said we were too emotional. Too soft. Too chaotic. And now you want that chaos back, because it was the only thing keeping your hypocrisy in check. Somewhere, a protest turned into a riot. On a mining colony, a high-ranking officer stepped down mid-speech. In the Broxy High Command, a mutiny erupted before the final clip even finished playing. Vex returned on screen, expression colder now. You can't fix this with another vote. You can't spin this with apologies. You had centuries to build a council worth respecting. You built a stage for liars. He straightened his coat and stood. Here's what's going to happen next. You're going to survive, or you're not. We're not stopping you. We're not saving you. We're watching. He glanced at something off-screen. Some of you are trying to retaliate. Positioning fleets near Terran space. Rattling sabers. That's adorable. On cue, a series of clips flashed. Broxy destroyers stranded mid-jump, their systems shut down by technical failures. Veilrax drones circling their own command ship, confused by spoofed orders. Alcara war engine detonating without impact, the blast forming a perfect holographic message in space. You missed. Try again. You think we're doing this to prove something? We're not. You already proved it. We just left the stage and let the lights show the cracks. He stepped forward. Understand this. We're not the villains. We're not the heroes. We're the reason your farce held together. And now you've got no script, no audience, and no one left to blame when the curtain falls. The feed ended. In the council chamber, no one spoke for a long time. The room smelled like fear, like ozone and burnt circuits. Some glared at each other. Some buried their faces in their hands. Threx stood motionless, fists clenched, jaw twitching. Iza's voice finally broke the silence. Is there a way to bring them back? Drav answered low. They're not gone. That's the worst part. They're just not playing anymore. From Earth's observation network, hundreds of satellites fed footage into black box servers. No judgment, no commentary. Just information. Vex stood alone in the command hall, watching systems collapse. One of his advisors entered behind him. The Draxians want to meet. Quiet channel. No fanfare. They're not ready yet, Vex said. Broxy? Still posturing. The Jinn offered to fund a new summit, hosted on neutral ground. He turned slightly. Tell them peace isn't something you buy. It's something you earn. A beat passed. They'll ask what we want. He turned back to the screen. They'll ask too late. A red alert flared in the corner. Another species declared independence from the Council, rejecting all its laws. The chain reaction spread. 10 more would follow by week's end. Vex didn't smile this time. There was nothing left to smile about. Only the realization that silence had become the loudest sound in the galaxy. You're not going to like this, the aide said, stepping into the room with hesitation stitched into every word. Arlen Vex didn't turn from the holomap. I haven't liked anything in weeks. Try me. The Broxy fleet is moving. Full strike formation. Heading for the Terran frontier. How many ships? 74, sir. Vex tapped the side of the map, enlarging the trajectory arc. And their reasoning? They're calling it a peace enforcement operation. Vex finally looked at him. They're sending 74 warships because we stopped talking. The aide nodded once. They think we're bluffing. He paused for a moment, eyes locked on the blinking red movement trail across the outer systems. Good. Let's give them something to regret. The comms officer patched into every Terran listening post, aligning signals to project on an open frequency. Vex stepped forward, voice sharp. To the Broxy High Command. This is Commander Arlen Vex of the Terran Coalition. We acknowledge your fleet's movement and consider it a hostile provocation. We will not fire the first shot. We will not respond in kind. But you are not entering a vacuum. You are entering Earth's silence. He cut the channel and walked out without waiting for a reply. In orbit, as the Broxy fleet approached Sector 12 Vega, their sensors started to behave erratically. Navigation systems blinked, alarms triggered without pattern. Ship logs began autofilling with messages none of their officers had typed. Welcome. We missed you. Please proceed to your humiliation. On one destroyer, an officer attempted to override the spam, only for his console to start playing a cooking show. The featured recipe, Broxy meat stew. The chef winked into the camera. You don't need brains for this dish, just enough Broxy to boil. The crew's reaction ranged from rage to panic. Orders tangled. Screens flickered. Entire ships lost formation. One captain reported hearing Terran laughter in his helmet, though he wasn't connected to comms. They never even reached the border. By the time the fleet tried to regroup, the 404th Mimetic Infantry had already hijacked half their comms with old Earth sitcom footage dubbed in Broxy, each episode edited to mock their leadership by name. Another warship's AI shut itself down entirely, displaying only a message. We decline to assist stupidity. In the council chamber, news of the botched operation sparked arguments and finger-pointing. Councillor Threk's fury boiled over. This is cyber warfare. Illegal under Code 974 Delta. Councillor Isa scoffed. You weren't concerned with legalities when you sent 70 ships to intimidate a species that had already walked away. You don't get it, Threk hissed. They didn't respond. They dismantled us without lifting a finger. Exactly, Isa said. Which means we're already losing. The room fell silent as a new transmission cut in, hijacking the chamber's systems. A live feed opened on Arlen Vex standing in the center of the Galactic Tribunal courtyard, alone. No armor. No guards. Just a black diplomatic suit and steel-toed boots. This is your second-to-last chance, he said. No preamble. No threats. Just certainty. Your systems are compromised. Your fleets are failing. Your leaders are exposed. We didn't lift a weapon. We lifted a mirror. Delegates yelled over each other, demanding answers, demanding action. Vex raised a single hand. Everyone went quiet. I'm not here to beg for unity. I'm here to deliver a final protocol. The old rules are gone. The new ones are human. A sharp tone sounded as 4 banners unfurled behind him, each marked with a Terran emblem and one line of text. Rule 1. You insult a Terran delegate, we remove your moon. Rule 2. You bring a fleet, we bring your logs to the public. Rule 3. You play games with language, we play louder. Rule 4. If you reject this, you accept the consequences. Vex stepped back, arms behind him. Your council doesn't run this galaxy anymore. It talks. It whines. It votes. But it doesn't decide. Because every time you needed order, you called a human. Now? You don't have us. Counselor Drav stood, trying to salvage control. You can't enforce this alone. We're not alone, Vex replied. Behind him, one by one, lights blinked down across the systems. Hundreds of ships, Terran-aligned, unaffiliated minor worlds, activating transponders not in defiance, but in agreement. They didn't fly flags. They flew silence. And silence, in that moment, was law. Vex leaned closer to the camera. Try another vote. Draft another treaty. Start another fight. Just remember, we're not aiming weapons. We're recording. Broadcasting. Exposing. He paused. Everything you hid behind diplomacy, we made public. Everything you denied in peace, we set loose in truth. And everything you thought you understood about us. He gave a small, amused smile. You really didn't. The feed ended. Isa stood, voice quiet. He didn't declare war. No, Threk muttered. He declared gravity. And we're already under it. Vex returned to orbit without a single scar, his message etched across the stars. The tribunal didn't fire. They didn't mobilize. They didn't retaliate. Because they knew it wouldn't help. They'd already lost, not to violence, but to a reality they couldn't control anymore. A human one. A world where diplomacy wasn't an option, but a service, and now that service had ended. And the bill had just arrived. Counselor Drav sat with his head bowed, staring at the table as if it held answers. It didn't. Nothing had since Earth left. Half the council chamber was empty. The other half sat in silence, each delegate waiting for someone else to speak first. No one wanted to be wrong. No one wanted to be next. Finally, Counselor Isa broke the quiet. We misjudged them. No one disagreed. It was the only truth they had left. Humanity hadn't threatened them. They hadn't waged war. They hadn't even retaliated. They simply walked away and left the rest of the galaxy to discover how fragile everything was without them. Threk stood. His voice didn't carry its usual arrogance. We can still restore order. Together. We create a new council. A stronger one. With what? Drav asked. The Quarren are eating themselves. The Broxy fleet fell apart trying to cross a border. The Draxians are suing for peace with the species they accidentally insulted through misused proverbs. Then we build from scratch. Without the humans? Isa said. You really think anyone will trust a treaty we sign now? Threk said nothing. He already knew the answer. A transmission alert flashed. No encryption. No header. Just one word final. The chamber went dark. A single spotlight illuminated a figure at the center. Arlen Vex. No screen. No broadcast. He was there. No armor. No escort. No weapons visible. I came alone, Vex said. Because this doesn't require threat. It requires clarity. Threx stepped forward, jaw tight. You expect us to kneel? Vex didn't blink. I expect you to listen. For once. He looked around at the scattered delegates. This wasn't sabotage. It wasn't retaliation. It was reality. You leaned on us to hold your structure together, then mocked us for the weight. You depended on us to keep your wars in check, then acted surprised when they reignited the moment we left. We were not prepared, Isa admitted. That's the problem. You never intended to be. Vex placed a small device on the table. It projected a map, 3 sectors currently in active chaos. Fires, famine, rebellion. No human presence in any of them. You can't fix this with another vote. You can't talk your way out. What you need isn't leadership. It's a spine. Threk crossed his arms. And Earth intends to take control? No, Vex said. Earth intends to redefine what control means. He tapped the device again. The map expanded, revealing a separate network, new alliances. Small, decentralized. Built not on legacy but on principles. Species that had once been marginalized. Independents who refused council authority. And every one of them had accepted Earth's new doctrine. Transparency. Accountability. Mutual survival. Isa leaned forward. Is this a new council? No, Vex said. It's something older. Community. Led by humans, Threx said. Led by need, Vex replied. And maintained by those who know the cost of silence. A heavy pause followed. Then Isa asked, and if we refuse? Vex looked her in the eye. Then Earth resumes observation. Threx scoffed. You mean you'll keep watching while we burn? I mean we'll make sure everyone sees you burn. He tapped again. Dozens of holoclips played, civilian footage from war zones, diplomatic recordings, intercepted communications. Crimes, failures, lies. Projected in full. Verified. Unedited. All captured by Earth's observation network. None of it altered. You don't fear war, Vex said. You fear truth. That's why diplomacy failed. It wasn't built on honesty. It was built on avoidance. Drav stood slowly. Then what are you offering? Accountability, Vex said. Join us or don't. But from now on, peace is enforced by exposure. Betray a treaty? Everyone knows. Abandon a population? Their screams go galactic. Lie in session? We play it back in your own tongue. Threx shook his head. That's extortion. No, Vex said. That's documentation. You're just not used to being seen. The projection shut down. The lights returned. Vex stepped back. This is your choice. Earth won't beg. We won't bribe. We won't threaten. You want peace? Live it. You want war? We'll film that too. He turned to leave. Isa called after him. If we agree, what happens next? Vex paused at the threshold. Next? You sign nothing. You prove everything. With that, he walked out. One by one, the delegates rose from their seats. Some left. Some argued. But none of them could ignore what had just happened. Not because Vex had forced them, but because he hadn't needed to. Later, back on Earth's command deck, Vex stood before the map of shifting alliances. Systems blinking from red to neutral. Neutral to stable. Report, he said. The aide handed him a data pad. 7 minor species are already reaching out. 3 council delegates submitted intent to observe the new framework. The Broxy haven't responded. They will. You sure? They need food, Vex said. We'll send a convoy. Quietly. You want to help them? I want the galaxy to understand something, Vex said. We don't punish weakness. We punish arrogance. The aide hesitated. You think they'll ever thank us? No, Vex said, watching the stars blink back into order. But they'll remember. And that was enough.